4th year. I don't think anybody's going to be setting a single season wins record this year. I think it's going to be exciting baseball from top to bottom.
Welcome to episode 323 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. It's about that time of year again as the Canadian College Baseball Conference season starts up this weekend with a full slate of games. We'll preview the season to come and chat with a player from each of Alberta's teams in a few minutes. But first, the news headlines. We'll start Major League Baseball, where we are a week away from opening weekend, although we did see the Dodgers and Cubs do battle in Japan already. Teams are still piecing together their opening day lineups. It seems Michael Soroka is locked to start the year in the Washington Nationals starting rotation. Eric Zabrowski, meantime, is starting to throw again after being sidelined with shoulder inflammation. His return date is still TBD as we record this, but he may end up making a few rehab appearances after a stint on the IL. And one guy making a case to stay with the big club is Tristan Peters in Tampa Bay. The Dogs Academy alum is still hitting .385 with a homer, 5 runs scored, and an RBI in 27 spring training plate appearances. And a big congratulations to Grand Prairie's Tyler Herron on making his spring training debut on Monday. He came in as a pinch hitter for the Tampa Bay Rays as a DH and came up 0 for 2 on the day. The MLB Spring Breakout Showcase event has come and gone with 4 of the 5 players with Alberta connections getting some playing time. It was cool to see Jacob Melton with the Houston Astros, Eric Hartman with the Atlanta Braves, Matt Wilkinson with the Cleveland Guardians, and Nathan Flewelling with Tampa Bay Rays in their respective games. Atlanta's Shea Shanneman did not get into a game, but he has pitched in 4 games for the Braves during the regular spring training schedule. We go to the college baseball scene now and our weekly top 5 performances. Vauxhall Academy alum and Calgary native Kyle Yip has been named the Canadian Baseball Network's College Player of the Week after an outstanding performance with UBC. He helped the T-Birds take 3 of 4 from Oregon Tech, picking up 7 hits including 3 homers to go along with 11 RBI. Dogs Academy and Okotoks Dogs alum Tyrell Chadwick is the Missouri Valley Conference Pitcher of the Week. The Illinois State University hurler went 7 innings of scoreless ball, allowing just 2 hits and 2 walks while striking out 7 in a 10-0 mercy win over Western Illinois on Saturday. Former Fort McMurray Giants hurler Logan Knight had himself a night with North Dakota State University. He threw a complete game 9-inning shutout in a 3-0 victory, allowing 3 hits and striking out 7. Vauxhall grad Cardell Dick hit a pair of home runs in a 21-12 University of Nebraska Omaha loss to St. Thomas. That included a grand slam, while he was also playing some stellar defense again behind the plate. And finally, Dogs Academy alum Ricky Sanchez continues his hot start to the college season at Pittsburgh State University. He racked up a .636 batting average with 5 doubles, a homer, and 5 RBI in 3 wins over Northwest Mountain State. On the WCBL front, teams continue rolling out their signings for the coming summer. The league also held a news conference in Lethbridge last week to release a few more details about the Rural Roots Baseball Classic being held in Oyen June 8th between the Sylvan Lake Gulls and Lethbridge Bulls. It'll also help mark the 30th anniversary of the Oyen Pronghorns claiming the Saskatchewan Major Baseball League title. Head to WCBLBaseball.com for more on that, and of course, Ian and I are planning on being there for what promises to be an outstanding new initiative. On to the theme this week, and it's the start of the Canadian College Baseball Conference season this weekend. It's also the 25th anniversary of the circuit. The University of Fraser Valley comes into the spring as the reigning champions, and there are plenty of storylines heading into the year to go around for each team, including 3 from Alberta, with Prairie Baseball Academy, the University of Calgary Dinos, and the Edmonton Collegiate Hawks. We'll get to a player from each team in a moment, but first, as we did last year, we'll start things off with Logan Wedgewood of the Battery Media. They'll be at it again this year with a ton of new content on social to share the CCBC's story. Wedge is a former player, current teacher and baseball coach, and a big-time advocate for the league. As it turns out, the Battery is also upping the ante this spring.
Logan, thanks so much for joining us back here on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
A year ago, almost to the day, we sat here looking ahead to the coming year. Could you have ever imagined that it would be the University of Fraser Valley lifting the championship trophy at the end of last season?
I would love to, in hindsight, say yes, of course. What a astute pick by myself and Sean last year to have selected UFV, but ultimately, no. I mean, they played extremely well in the championship tournament, and they deserved it in the end. Like that final championship game between them and OC was an outstanding baseball game, and it reminded me a lot of. It was kind of a rematch of sorts from when OC beat UFE in Kamloops a long time ago, when I think it was like a 13-12 final where it went back and forth. Actually, Sean hit a home run in that game, a 3-run shot in like the 7th inning or something like that. And, that's the beauty of that tournament, where teams that you don't expect to be in the final show up and they just duke it out. So congrats to the UFE that they played an excellent tournament.
When you look back at that tournament, what set them apart that allowed them to be the victors at the end?
I think their pitching. I think it was their pitching really the entire season for the most part. They pitched extremely well. They did wonderful things on the mound. I think they were top 2 or 3 in ERA, and that was a big part. But they also had very clutch performances. Like Brady Renneberg, he lit the world on fire in that postseason. I'm looking at the stats now. He went 10 for 18 in that tournament with 2 home runs. That's the kind of performance that you need. Anthony Sedekassi also 11 for 20 in that tournament with a triple. They just saw the ball well, and they hit. I think in a tournament that is that fast paced, you need to have a couple people that just have kind of world on fire type weekends, and in order to win, and I think you need at least 2, and if you have 3, you're probably the winning team. So but their pitching was consistent. Like, they had 2 pitchers that didn't allow a run in the entire tournament, Kamenjosevic and Mason Chien. So they had 2 people on the offensive side and 2 people on the pitching side that both just had perfect tournaments. So I think that's really where it came out.
And not just that, but the top pitcher of the year as well comes from that program, and Josh Berenbaum. What did that guy mean to that program and being able to be where they were at the end?
I know that Berenbaum has had a long college career. He was playing when I was a first-year coach as a shortstop, and he had some back issues, I think it was back issues, and then he kind of revamped himself as a pitcher, and I know that he was banged up throughout the season, but I think he ended the season with maybe 3 earned runs the entire year, and gutted it out for that team as an older guy, and to be able to just really put himself out there and fight through that kind of stuff. He showed what it took to kind of work through a turbulent season like that, and led the pitching staff, I think, if not statistically, which he did lead statistically, but also just as an older guy setting the tone.
Mm-hmm. And now we look ahead to this coming season, which starts in just a couple of days here. And UFE is at the top of the coaches' rankings at the very least. When you look at things, do you agree with that assessment?
No, I don't. I think it's hard to say that the reigning champion isn't the favorite, but I was looking at the roster yesterday and just kind of thinking about the pieces that they have going, and they're losing. They're losing Kai Fike. They're losing Berenbaum. They've lost the Renneberg brothers. They lost another one of their pitchers in Blake Badger. So they don't have some of these key pieces that they had last year. And of course, they need people to step up. That's the end of it. It makes me think of Coach Carter when the 2 best players quit the team, and then Samuel L. Jackson says, "Well, it looks like we need 2 new leading scorers this season." So they still have Mason Chien. They still have Sasha Kamenjosevic. They still have Christie, Prevost, Sedekassi. They have those guys. They have pieces, but losing Kai Fike is a difficult blow. He was a 94-mile-per-hour arm that really excited a lot of people. Brady Renneberg had a lot of pop. He was a good hitter. Berenbaum, of course, as we already said, was a leader on that team. He is now coaching, so he's still present there. He's able to kind of share that knowledge and that side of him still. But they're going to need people to step up if they want to do it again. They won with pitching last year, and they still have Chien and Kamenjosevic, but they've lost 2 of their 4 starting pitchers, and Kai Fike, who was kind of acting as their quasi-closer last year, because I think they were trying to keep him on an innings limit or something like that. But there's openings now that someone needs to fill, and it's going to depend on if those people can fill it in the same capacity, I think.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the rosters, who's number 1 in your books?
That's a tough question. I'd be a homer if I said OC, so I won't. I really like Calgary this year. I think they have a ton of experience. I think they have a ton of players that have been in the league for 3 or 4 years now. They have consistency in their roster. They have consistency in their team. And I think they know each other really well. I'm also looking for TRU to be a little bit of a dark horse this year for similar reasons. Zach Robinson had an excellent start to the year last year. I think he went something close to 25 innings without allowing an earned run to start the year. So it's anybody's league this year, really. I don't have a clear favorite. I think it's going to be a lot of shock and awe. PBA is going to PBA. They're going to hit the ball. I don't have a clear favorite. I think this year is about as level going into the season as it gets.
One of the teams that I look at, and they're in the top 3 in the coaches' rankings anyways, who've steadily been on the up and up, is in this province as well. What do you see out of the Edmonton Collegiate Hawks?
I was listening to our conversation last year before we hopped on this call, and because I wanted to see if I was right about things, And one thing that I know I was right about was Jake Lanferman. He's a great coach. He's a great coach. He's a stable hand for being how young he is. He's doing the right things as a coach, and I think, and they've also hired their new pitching coach, who is also my former roommate, Wyatt Hummel. He's a brain. He loves baseball. He lives for baseball. He lives for pitching, and I know that he'll get the most out of the pitchers that they have. And the pitchers that they have, they don't have Halen Knoll this year. They don't have Riley Barrett this year, but they got some good arms. Matthew Ridsdale had a great year last year for a first-year player. I think first-year player, pretty sure, going into his second year this year, he's going to need to lead that pitching staff. They're going to have good players. They're going to have good players, no doubt, and it's going to depend on how many of those good players can be great players this year. And I think Jake and Wyatt are going to be able to bring the best out of them. And I obviously know their other coach, like Nathan Coffin has been their bench coach forever. He's stable. He's a good guy. Players love him. So I think they have the fabric. It's going to really just depend on who can step out of their shell a little bit and be confident at the plate or confident on the mound and show that consistency right from day one and allow that to grow. Edmonton Collegiate is stable as they come since they got into the league, and it's going to be about whether or not they can push it or not.
You mentioned Halen Knoll, you mentioned Riley Barrett. How much of a factor is that going to be in your eyes as far as missing pieces? Because, those two guys have been around basically since they rejuvenated that brand and really burst onto the scene over the last couple of years here.
It can't really be understated. Halen Knoll and Riley Barrett, that'd be like losing your top 2 pitchers. That's like losing Garrett Cole and Max Fried, I guess, both for the season. So it completely changes your pitching staff, I think. And Halen Knoll was one of the best CCBC pitchers that have ever come through the league. He won the West Coast League Pitcher of the Year, and then he came back and dominated again, and his career numbers just show that he was absolutely dominating. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be able to step up for them. I think Ridsdale will do his job, and then after him, I want to know who's next. I want to know who their number 2, 3, 4 guy will be, and who's going to step up and put it together quality innings to give them a chance to win ball games. And losing Knoll and losing Riley Barrett, those are 2 tough losses at the top of your rotation. And not to say that nobody's going to step into it, but it's hard to replace those 2 guys.
For sure. Number 4 on the coaches list is the other Alberta team. You mentioned the hitting of PBA. That's what they do best year after year, it seems. When you look up and down that roster, one of the things that I heard from Todd Hubka was we were a young team last year. We've got some experience now under our belt. How much of that is going to be a factor in your eyes as this team looks to get back to the promised land?
Experience is tough to come by for PBA because of their 2-year program. And guys that come through the JV program, they have a little bit more time. But 2 years in the CCBC, I think about myself as a sophomore and myself as a senior, and there's such a massive difference. Now, obviously, these kids are really talented to be able to show up as a freshman and a sophomore to be able to play at the caliber that they can play at, but experience is tough to come by, and 2 years makes a huge difference when you only have those 2 years. So I think their experience from freshman to sophomore, like, they have to really expedite that process in comparison to some of the other clubs. So I think it has to help, and it will. They made a lot of silly mistakes, I think, like freshman mistakes, like the mistakes that freshmen make. And they will rectify a lot of those. Will they be perfect? No teams are going to be perfect. They're all going to make mental mistakes throughout the season, and it happens. It's part of the game. So I think that they're very talented. They could be the most talented program in terms of player to player. It will be the experience, in my mind, that will decide if they have a banner-raising season or if they play really well and then everybody's a little bit afraid of them in the playoffs, and then they don't deliver. I think that'll be the difference. Is if can they take a deep breath in a 5-run inning and call a mound visit, talk, and relax themselves? Can they ride the wave of a season or of a playoff series where it isn't up and down radically like a roller coaster? It's okay, we just gave up 2 runs, now we need to calm ourselves down and get back into it and take good at bats. Or will they do the freshman thing where they go, okay, we just gave up 2 runs, now we have to put up 7 right now, let's go hit 5 home runs. Like, so that experience is going to really matter on their consistency throughout the year, and if they can overcome adversity in a calm way where they're just playing their own game, or if they're going to be reactionary throughout the season because of that inexperience. So I think Huck is right. The experience is going to really matter, and he's been around for a long time. If he's seeing that growth, I'm going to believe him. So that's exciting. I think that's really exciting for PBA.
On the PBA side, who's caught your eye? Who do you look forward to seeing suit up this season?
My favorite story of the entire season last year was Owen Lucas. I got excited by it because he did not start the first game of the season in Kamloops. He didn't start for whatever reason. I'm assuming it just wasn't his turn. He then played every single game from the rest of the season, and after that first game not starting, he went on a 13-game hit streak. And of those 13 games, 9 of them were multi-hit games. So it wasn't just like a single going 1 for 5. He had 9 multi-hit games in a 13-game hit streak, and throughout the entire season, he only went hitless 2 times. So the guy's a hitter. He shows up, he swings the bat, and he puts the ball where fielders aren't. And that was my favorite story because I can feel that story from that kid looking at the lineup in the first game of the season, that opening day lineup, and going and not seeing your own name and going, why is my name not on this lineup? What could I have done more of? And then getting hungry and then playing the second game and getting a couple hits and then just never giving it back and running with it for the whole year. So that was my favorite story of the entire season last year. He finished the season with a 969 OPS. And it wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire power numbers wise. He didn't get a lot of extra base hits, but his on base percentage and his just batting average in general, like 969 OPS is elite stuff. And if you're not getting doubles and triples and home runs, then that just shows that you're a ball player and you're just getting on base all the time. So I'm looking forward to him as a sophomore. If he can add a touch of power to those numbers and maybe trade a couple of those singles for some doubles, then he's going to be the best hitter in the league. So that's the story that I'm looking for this year out of PBA, is how good can this kid be.
Looking forward to that. He was a guest on the show last year, an absolute gem to chat with. The final Alberta team to touch base with is the University of Calgary Dinos, coming in at number 6 on the coaches poll. You've got them as one of the favorites. A lot of returning players, as you mentioned, and they're probably got a little bit of a sore spot too, because they didn't defend their 2023 championship as well as I think they thought they would. Who do you have in your eyes that you want to be looking forward to this coming season out of them?
I think from the hitter side, I really like Brendan Tong. He had limited at-bats last year. He didn't play for a bit of the first part of the season, so I'm guessing an injury or something like that. But when he finally got in, he hit. He hit. I think he didn't stop hitting from the time he got into the game around the mid-season to the end of the season. He finished with an 894 OPS over something like 60 at-bats. And I think he just really showed his talent level as a hitter, and he had the extra base hits sprinkled in. He just showed that he could hit, and I'm looking for a full season out of him. He finished the year with like an 8-game hit streak or something like that, with multi-hit games sprinkled throughout against good teams like against PBA, against Edmonton, against UFB. So he showed that he can hit good pitching, which in the CCBC, one of the big kind of signifiers for me when it comes to players who are playing good versus players who are really good is who they're getting their hits off of. We know that from the top to the bottom, and both from a pitching staff standpoint, but also a standing staff standpoint, there's quite a disparity from the Halen Knowles of the league to Joe Smith playing for the bottom team and is the last pitcher off the bench. So if you're stockpiling your hits against a player that is not necessarily that good, then that's one thing. But if you're getting your hits against some of the top teams early in the ball game against their starting pitchers, then you're there. So that's what I saw from him going through the stats of who's going to hit in the big games against the big teams, against the big pitchers. And I think he's one of the guys that'll do that. From a pitching standpoint, I like Jaden Wielders as well. He had a good ERA last year, 2.52 over 6 starts, 7 starts, including his postseason start. He won his postseason game. It's a four-game tournament. You win your start, that's a good thing. So he won his postseason game. He had 4 quality starts throughout the year. That's 6 innings pitched with less than 3, or with 3 or less earned runs. He's got strikeout numbers, which Calgary traditionally has strike throwers, but doesn't always have strikeout guys. But he got his strikeouts. He had more strikeouts than he had innings pitched last year. I think if he limits his walks, he'll be a frontline kind of guy. He had a crooked amount of walks every start last year. But he also had a lot of strikeouts. I'm looking at his last regular season start against PBA. He had 8 strikeouts in 5 innings, but he also had 4 walks. So, limiting down those walks and attacking hitters early and trusting your stuff. If he can approach the game from that standpoint of like, here's my stuff, just try and hit it, see what you can do. Because he's obviously striking out guys, so his stuff has to be good. So if he can attack early and limit down the walks, then I think he'll see those numbers go for him a little bit better. So Jaden Wielders is my pick as a junior out of Calgary right now, and if he has a good year, I think they'll have a good year.
Absolutely. I'll let you play Homer for a minute because OC's not that far over the border per se. Talk a little bit about what you're expecting out of OC this year.
I'm looking for OC to dig into the bag a little bit of their aggressiveness. That was my favorite part about playing for OC. They're an aggressive program. That was always our goal, was to lead the league in stolen bases, to lead the league in extra base hits, to feel like the gritty players that show up every single day, work harder than the other team, and make them feel it just based on us taking that extra base. If you're not looking, we're going. That was the mentality that Davis Tadosachuk would try to set with us when we were playing together. Myself, him, and another player, Aaron Barrett. We were our 1, 2, 3 of our team, and our goal was to have 2 of us in scoring position by the time our 4-hole got up, and that was every single time. It was we're not taking any of these at bats for granted. We are going to go steal bags. We are going to go play the game at a fast pace, and if the other team can keep up with us, then we'll figure it out from there. But until they prove that they can keep up with us, then we're just going to keep going gas pedal down. So that's what I want to see out of OC. They got talented players. They're very talented. They're probably more talented than we were. So that's what I'm looking for. I want to see that again, because last year as a league, the stolen base numbers were down. The aggressiveness seemed to be down. Last year, I think, was very much a pitcher's league. It's traditionally been a hitter's league in the CCBC before last year, so it's kind of nice to see that changed going into the pitcher's direction. But 3 of the 5 top ERA guys are out of the league this year, so I think it's time for offense to go gas pedal down and let's see what happens and let's push it. OC's got some new spots here that are open. Doucette is not here anymore, and that was their hit leader, their leadoff guy, their spark plug. So I think, I was asking Jeff White who we should be looking for, and he had big words for Coleman Kawaguchi. He's a sophomore this year, speedy guy. I want to see him just like play risk-free, and let's just see what he can do. Mm-hmm. Ethan Skiffington, kind of the same thing. Orioli's kind of their power bat. I want to see him just go up there and G-hack. Like, that's what I want. I want them to play as if they can't fail, and that, because that's the way that OC has won in the past. When I was a coach there, that's how they won. They played risk-free. They tried to just change the game. Let's go impact, not let's just play. If they can kind of go that direction, and they got Tegan Ribbink on the mound, then they're going to win the game. So that's kind of it for OC. I think if they just push it, they'll get it.
Mm-hmm. Lots to digest heading into this season, because you've got, as you mentioned, the hitters versus the pitchers, and what kind of game is it going to be this year. You've also got kind of an even keel. It seems like every team's going to be capable of beating every other team on any given weekend. When you look ahead to the season ahead, how excited are you to watch things finally get going?
I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a very back and forth year. I don't think anybody's going to be setting a single season wins record this year. I think it's going to be exciting baseball from top to bottom. The newer programs are developing. They're getting closer. It's going to be a year where we're going to see which programs are going to be able to sustain success. I want to see, Riley Jepson's sophomore coaching year. Congratulations to him as a first-year coach winning it all. I know he's a good coach because I know he's a good person. I think that's the best way to be a good coach is to be a good person. So I think that's he's going to be just fine, and they're going to be just fine. But I want to see them take it a step further from last year. I'm excited just to see new people step in. There's been turnover, especially on the mound. Like I said, 3 out of the 5 top ERA guys are out of the league. It's time for new people to come in and dominate. I want to see some of these freshman hitters that had good years, like the Coleman Kawaguchis, to turn it up a notch and continue. Like Owen Lucas. I want to see these players step into a place of confidence where they are just going, I don't care if I strike out because I want to hit a double. Not, I'm afraid to strike out, so I'm going to hit a single. Like, I want to see power baseball back in the CCBC from an offensive standpoint. And last year, a pitching league, it's hard to know if it's a pitching league because the pitching was excellent or if it's because the hitting was young. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is a lot of these hitters that had good years to push it and have a great year and to see what the offense looks like this year because of that.
So many storylines. One final one for you. The Battery is back. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of and what fans can expect as they tune in on their social media channels this year from you guys.
Yeah, we're excited. We've upgraded our team from 2 to 4. Last year it was myself and Sean Robbins, and we worked our butts off and we made it work as best we can, but we figured out pretty quickly that we needed help. So we brought in a couple of also CCBC alumni that care a lot about this league and care a lot about trying to represent the league in the best way possible. We brought in Brendan Luther, who is, a CCBC legend in his own way. Statistically, as a player, he's going to be doing a lot of the graphics for us, and he's extremely talented. What isn't he good at? Mm-hmm. And we're bringing in McGregor Sharp. Sharp was with me in our very first year doing this as both of us are volunteering our time. He's with us again. He's been in the lab learning a bunch of new things, like in the video editing world of everything. So we've grown our team from 2 to 4, which will give us the ability to spend time in a more concentrated way with a better plan. I think we went back to the drawing board at the end of the last season, and we thought to ourselves, like, what wasn't working? What can we do better? And we came up with some pretty fun ideas. So we're extremely excited for this season. I think we're ready to go. I know the players are ready to go. The coaches are ready to go. So I think we can fast forward this week and just get over to the weekend.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. A lot happening on the CCBC front, and it's going to be led by the Battery. Logan, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Now it's time for a player from each of the Alberta teams, and we'll go in order of team ranking according to the latest coaches poll. Coming in at number 3 is the Edmonton Collegiate Hawks, who are coming off a 15-5 campaign and a near miss in the championship weekend, getting to the semifinal. An enticing player to watch this year will be Jake Roggensack. The infielder hit .409 with 10 RBI in 14 games during the regular season, then hit .263 in the playoffs. The Wainwright native will be looking to provide more of the same offense through a full season in 2025.
Jake, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Another season of CCBC baseball is upon us. How excited are you to get things rolling?
Yeah, I'm super excited. This team, how the season ended last year with championships, we're eager, we're excited, and we have a lot of old guys this year, a lot of experience under our belts, and just excited to get back outside. It's been a long off season here indoors, early morning lifts and all that stuff, and now, we're a couple weeks away. That hard stuff is over, and now we just get to go outside and have fun.
Is there a feeling of almost a missed opportunity from last year? Because it felt like that team was starting to kind of get its groove on by the end of the season, and it ended in bitter disappointment. Is there a bit of a unfinished business feeling in the dressing room right now?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely not how we wanted last season to end, obviously. But yeah, there's a semifinal game. I mean, we really kind of collided that weekend and played for each other, and we were winning the majority of that semifinal game, and all of a sudden OC scrapped some runs together, and they had the momentum, and we can get runs across the plate, and that'll leave a good mark, and pretty happy to see how the boys kind of dealt with that. We took it as a learning moment, and you can tell over the summer guys are working hard in the cages, getting their reps in the weight room too, and then brought that motivation and drive into the fall, and had a very competitive fall. The fall World Series was the most competitive I think this program has ever had in the series, and we were just playing for bragging rights and for a big trophy, right? It's kind of, for a fan that might sound ridiculous, but no, here we love to compete and we love to win, and I'm excited to get the season going and see what we bring to the table when our season's on the line and we have a championship to win.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you learned a few things along the way, especially in that championship weekend. What did you take away from that personally? Was there anything that you went, okay, that's what we need to do to be in the same place UFE was last year?
The big thing I'd say is just playing the game the right way and playing for each other. Always being there for your teammates, your brothers that you go to war with every day. Especially in the championship season or the championship weekend there, we had two guys go down, big guys in our lineup go down, and we had to we had to fill in those spots. And it wasn't just last year. The year before, myself and another teammate went down, and we had to get 2 or 3 more guys in that lineup. And it's just everyone's showing up to the field, being ready to play, and you don't know what can happen, especially with the game of baseball. So just everyone coming together, being there for each other, and being ready to play, because you never know if you're going to get your shot.
On a personal level, you're coming off a season where you hit 400. You seem to be hitting when you were in the lineup. How happy were you with your overall performance?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy. Especially from my freshman season, it's kind of frustrating. I wasn't hitting the ball that well, but being able to take a step back and not really worry about my outcome of my at-bats or putting more pressure on to score a run or whatever, what I did in freshman year, I just kind of took a step back and wanted to enjoy the game again and control what I can control, which is being on time for the pitch and putting a good swing on, and that's all I really wanted to do going into the season, and that was my focus, and I'm glad that it turned out well, and I had fun last year doing it.
Now you enter year 3. You're slowly becoming one of the veterans on that squad. So do you expect more of yourself in terms of being a leader in that room and making sure that you are getting that message across that, hey, this is a bit of a marathon, not necessarily a sprint, and we got to keep improving week after week?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of different because freshman year, it felt like last year or whatever, like yesterday, I was asking older guys questions and picking their brains about everything, and now this year, I'm an older guy. People look up to me, and now they're asking me questions, and they're kind of tagging along, with me in the weight room or the cages every day or whatever, getting extra reps. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see how far I have come as an individual, and just being able to be there as a role model and teach what we are all about here at Edmonton.
In your eyes, what are you guys all about, especially with Jake at the helm? What kinds of things are you trying to impress upon that younger crew to make sure that they're buying in sooner rather than later?
So our main goal here is obviously to win a championship, right? That's why we show up to the field. We want to compete every day and work hard every day, and that's kind of who we are as a team. We show up and we put our heads down and we work, and no playing for yourself or whatever, your own personal stats. We're a team, and we want to get that through with the younger kids or the younger guys, obviously, to put your nose down and work for this team, work for the guys next to you, because you can't win a championship on your own. It's a team sport. Everyone has to buy in to winning that championship, and that's our main goal.
So speaking of that goal, how do you get there? What needs to happen between now and May Long weekend to make sure that you've captured the championship and you're raising the trophy for the first time in team history?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we put a lot of hard work in the off season and in the fall, and I think it starts right in the fall. You gotta show up every day, put your work in every day. You can't just flip a switch in March and championship season and then say, hey, now I want the championship. No, it's what you do every day during the off season, during the summers, and that's what putting your work in every day, showing up every day, not taking days off or skipping the weight room or whatever because you're tired or whatever. Just bear down and get going in the off season. So then when season comes, comes easy. We just get to play ball and go out and execute.
Let's get in your baseball past here a little bit, Jake. You're originally from Wainwright, although you're a bit of an Alberta transient here. How'd you get into baseball in the first place?
My big brother and my dad, they always play baseball. And, I mean, especially kind of my drive for baseball grew when I was down in Webster, Alberta, playing Little League with Norcrest. And, being able, just competitive ball, in grade 2 or whatever, I think really drove me, and I fell in love with the game, and being able to go out and watch the Lethbridge Bulls and go have our Single Canada with my team, on the Lethbridge Bulls field before their game. That kind of what, made me want to play college ball and inspired me to play. And, so I always stuck with it. Pretty much anything I could, every day I could play ball, I was doing it.
Very cool. Were you a multi-sport guy growing up, or was it all baseball all the time from being a young tyke?
No, I was any sport I could get my hands on, I was playing. I played, hockey was obvious. Big hockey family as well. Dad and brother played. Played school sports, volleyball, basketball, badminton. Played a year of football too. Anything really I could. I didn't not playing sports, so anything I could, I was always trying to play a sport.
Do you remember the time where it kind of flipped for you, where you went, okay, all these sports are great, but I want to focus in on baseball. This is where my dreams lie.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been grade 9, my brother, he actually went and played for the Edmonton Prospects. And then that kind of lit a spark for me, and I was like, okay, like, that's cool. I kind of want to do that. So then that season, I went up and played the first year of AAA baseball up in Lloydminster. Had a good season there. Got asked to go to a college showcase and then top 40. And then, like, that was kind of the moment where, like, okay, like, you know, like, I'm doing good. I'm getting asked to go to these camps and everything. And I was like, if I want to go play college, like, let's try to go to an academy and strive for that goal.
And you did exactly that. You suited up at Badlands. You also went to Neutral Hills for a summer. What did those experiences mean to you? Not just in the development baseball piece, but also from a human aspect as well?
Yeah, I mean, you learn a lot. Like, when I went down there when I was just a kid, like 15 years old, you know, kind of nervous, like new town, new friends. Like, how are my billets going to be? Luckily, like, I had the greatest billets. There's always dinner on the table and everything. But, yeah, the biggest learning moment, like, as a human, like, it kind of taught me how to be on my own a little bit more. Like, I obviously had my teammates, my coaches, and my billets, but, like, more taking care of myself just at a young age. And, yeah, like, at a baseball perspective, like, it grew a lot as a player there, playing against, you know, Boxall, Okotoks, and even, like, college programs. So, yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm glad I got the opportunity.
Looking back on the young career to this point, any favorite memories or moments where you had to take that step back and go, man, I can't believe I'm getting to do this?
Yeah, there's been a couple. I'd say probably my favorite, I mean, like, just being able to play college ball, like my first season of college baseball. It's been a goal of mine since I get in like grade 2 when I was down in Lethbridge making that goal. And just being able to take a step back and realize that all the hard work and the sacrifices that I made, like moving to Badlands and everything like that, kind of like worked out, and I was finally able to play college baseball. That was a pretty cool moment for me.
For sure. On the flip side of that, we all know baseball is a game of failure. So what's been that biggest hurdle or that biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome that you're super proud of yourself for?
Oh, yeah. I've had a couple. I mean, I just came back from surgery and wasn't really able to play this summer or anything. So, like, injuries are a part of the game that's tough. Like, it's hard being injured. But another one, like, it's a game of failure, like you said, and it's a big mental game. Like, I learned down in Merced that, like, you're going to fail, and you can work as hard as you can to, like, make sure you don't fail, but you can work, like, it's all, I believe the game is all mental. Like, if you have a strong mentality at it, then you can find success. But if it's easy when you're failing, you're in a slump and things aren't going your way, you can really get down on yourself. And just being able to get through the mental part and find positive attitudes or positive thoughts like every day in your game really helped me become mentally tough, I guess.
Fantastic. A few fun ones for you here, Jake. First off, what's your favorite ballpark food when you're there as a fan?
Ooh, I'd say my favorite ballpark food. I mean, a hot dog. Like, hot dogs are always good.
What do you got on the toppings?
Just straight ketchup and relish.
It's funny, I keep saying it, it's so divisive, whether it's ketchup or mustard. Nobody seems to like combining them, and it's very plain Jane either way, so that's very cool. Who's your favorite teammate of all time? Not to pick, it's like picking favorite kids, but I want you to single out one who's been like the most influential or the most fun to be around.
That's tough. I'd say probably my good buddy from Wainwright, named Nolan. He's like, just we would hang out every day, goof around. He'd make, like like just going out there and having fun. It wasn't like really like a business or like showing up to work. It was just with him. We would always just goof around and crack jokes and compete against each other. And I think that's important, having a guy that you can like compete against and like want to beat every time, but at the end of the day, like you're just buddies and you can goof around.
That's awesome. Shout out to Nolan for being the good teammate there. And finally, what's your favorite ballpark that you've ever played in?
Gotta be our home stadium here, Remax Field. Big stadium, turfed infield. Yeah, I love showing up there and playing every day.
That's awesome. A couple more for you before we let you go. They're kind of standard for the athletes here. First off, what's your go-to piece of advice or those words of wisdom that you like to impart upon those young kids who might be looking up to you going, man, I want to be like him one day?
Words of advice is, I think, like just put your head down and work for what you want. You can say you want it all you want, but actions speak louder than words. And if you're not going out there and improving your game and practicing and getting in the weight room, and even taking care of like your nutrition, like eating the right foods and drinking water, I'd say focus on like that. Like you got to go out and get what you want. You can't just sit back and expect for it to happen.
Fantastic piece of advice for sure. And the final one is one we ask everybody here on the show. What does the game of baseball mean to you, Jake?
This might be a really basic answer, but the game of baseball is like everything to me. I've played it every day. I've learned to love it. I've gone through so much with it, like tough times. I've out-battled that, and now, you learn so much just playing sports, and I'm pretty confident that my habits with baseball and all the other sports are gonna go with me, like when I'm done baseball, like with my future. It's just my everything. I love it.
We've loved having you on and getting a chance to know you a little bit more, Jake. Congratulations on all the success you've had to this point. Continued success with EC and beyond. Best of luck this season. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you so much.
Next up is Prairie Baseball Academy, who finished 14-15 last season and made some noise in the championship weekend before bowing out in the quarters. Head coach Todd Hubka said they were a young team that battled through some key injuries, so this year the veterans will be asked to lead the charge. One of them will be Lloydminster's Cody Graf, who went 0-4 with a 9.94 ERA in 6 games last season, but he also struck out 30 batters in 19 innings of work.
Cody, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Another season of CCBC baseball is upon us. How excited are you to finally get going?
Oh, I'm ecstatic. Just the team this year. I've never been this excited in the past 3 years.
Talk about that excitement and the vibe that's going on in that clubhouse right now as you guys get ready to roll. I know you got Idaho Falls coming up in a week, and then it's for the real thing in just a little bit here.
Yeah, vibes are high. I'm really excited about our pitching staff too this year. 4 starters this year, all really, really good, and our bullpen is probably one of the best I've seen. And our hitters too, unreal. I've never been a part of a team like this, so I'm excited.
I'm curious, talking to Hubs last year, he kind of gave me the impression that, hey, we're a young team, we're going to have our ups and downs. Do you feel like, hey, you got that one, you can sweep it under the rug a little bit and you can move on with this year's crew?
Yeah, for sure. We are an older group now this year. We got a couple of younger guys, but the leadership this year is really good. We all learned from last year that it's not like playoffs are a whole different ball game. Like it doesn't matter up until playoffs. Well, it does, but you know what I mean. Like anything can happen in playoffs, and we learned that. So,
how much of it is, especially it's such a weird season. I've talked to different guys about this. Is you basically go balls to the wall for 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And it's all, like you said, as much as the season matters, it kind of doesn't. How much of it is about improving week after week and making sure that you're doing all the right things so that everybody's hitting at the same time, whether it be pitching or at the plate, come that May long weekend?
Yeah, well, it's all about getting hot at the right time, in my opinion. Like, you've seen it in Calgary Dinos that 1 year, 2 years ago when they won. They got hot at the right time. They were improving throughout the whole season, and for my team this year, from what I'm seeing already, we're steadily improving. Everyone's getting better, and if we can keep doing that, I think we're gonna have a really good chance of winning this year.
When you look back at last year's championship, what kind of lesson did you learn even through those 3 or 4 days there as you're watching UFE win, that you're like, okay, here's what we got to do to be in that spot in 2025?
I got to say, pitching, huge. Pitching does win ball games, in my opinion, as well as defense. They played really good defense. That hurt me, from what I remember. And hopefully we can do the same.
On a personal level, you're heading into your second full season, if memory serves, with PBA. Do you have any expectations or goals of yourself heading into this season?
My goal this year is to be a reliever of the year. That's what I'm setting my sights on.
Do you have any numerical things that you're looking to do, or is it just like be that guy that can come in at any moment and shut them all down?
Be that guy. Honestly, I'm not really too worried about the numbers. I just want to be that lockdown guy for my team and hopefully seal games.
Talk about the off season for yourself. What have you been working on? What kinds of things have you been fine-tuning to make sure you get yourself into a good spot to be that reliever of the year?
Arm health. I've had a few injuries over in my past 3 years here, so I'm really just making sure I'm staying healthy.
Great stuff. Give us a scouting report on you a little bit. What do you bring to the table when you're on the bump?
I'm more of a velo guy, a hard sinker guy, 87 to 89, 80 mile an hour slider, and changeup. That's what I got.
Very cool. Also, just the fact that you're becoming one of the veterans very quickly on this team. Do you take that leadership piece into account as well? Like, what kinds of things are you trying to do, especially in the dugout, to make sure the guys are up even in those moments, which will invariably happen, where things might be a little tough to swallow?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not too much of a vocal leader out there, but I do try to lead by example. Like, work hard. Like just by example, not try to control my body language. Just keep my team in the game at all times. Absolutely.
Let's get into your baseball past here a little bit, Cody. You're originally from Lloydminster, the Saskatchewan side. How'd you get into baseball in the first place?
My dad put me in t-ball when I was younger. Enjoyed it. I also played hockey, but baseball is always the one I was better at, so I decided to continue with it.
So you had baseball, you had hockey. Did you play any other sports growing up?
I played a couple high school sports like volleyball, and that's about it, just volleyball.
What was it about baseball that made you go, man, I really want to chase that one?
Well, it started out, I really wanted to play hockey, but it just didn't work out, and baseball was the one that I kept steadily improving at, and now, like, seeing that improvement, it's been my favorite sport.
Very cool. Do you remember that moment when it clicked for you, when it turned from, hey, this is a fun game and all, to, hey, maybe I've got something here. Maybe I can do something at the college level, for example?
Yeah, my coach in Lloyd actually kind of was pushing me towards it. Like, I hit 80 miles an hour for the first time when I was 18. He's like, that's hard enough to play in some college leagues. Okay. And then after that first year of college baseball, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed hanging out with the guys and playing against higher level talent. And then that summer, I really put in and gained a lot of weight and velo and all that stuff. So that really was it for me.
Looking back on the young career to this point, do you have a favorite memory or moment on the field where you had to take that step back and go, man, this is pretty cool?
That walk-off win against Golden Tide last year. I think it was against Golden Tide last year, but that walk-off win where we all cleared the dugout, that was really fun.
Conversely, and I think I know the answer to this based on what you answered about what you've been working on and your keys to success, but we all know baseball is a game of failure. So on the flip side of the good times, what are some of the challenges or hurdles you've had to overcome that maybe you're most proud of?
Ooh, I would say probably just me being able to gain that velo, because I was stuck at 80 miles an hour for a very long time. And then I put on 60 pounds in my last 2 years here. And I've really been proud of that, being able to put on that much muscle and weight and turn it into, make it help positively affect me on the mound.
Mm-hmm. What's the PBA program meant to you?
Everything. Hub, Mac, all the coaches there have done so much for me in the past 3 years that I can't even begin to say how much it means to me.
Very cool. A few fun ones for you before we let you go here, Cody. First off, what's your favorite ballpark food when you're there as a fan?
Oh, I gotta go, if they have it, poutine.
Now, do you do just a straight up like gravy, cheese, and fries, or are you one of those guys who likes to have something crazy? I'm a big pierogi poutine guy. Do you have something on the toppings that you're like, that's cool too?
Ooh, Streets here. They got like a Belgian waffle poutine. It's a weird one, but it's actually really good.
That sounds super cool. I'm going to have to come down and visit that place before too long here.
Go for it.
Will do. What's the favorite ballpark that you've ever played in?
I really enjoy the Riverhawks field. Remax.
Very cool. I know this is going to be like picking favorite kids, but who's your favorite teammate of all time, whether it be just great dude or best bud or whatever the case may be? This is your chance to give a shout out.
Oh, I would say Dawson Schultz. He's just been one of my best friends for the past, since I got here. You know, he's always been there for me. He's been a good friend, and I'm happy that I got to meet him, and I'm happy to call him one of my best friends.
Awesome stuff. A couple more for you. They're the standard ones we ask across the board here on the show. For those young kids who are just starting out at PBA, they might be on the JV team, for example, or maybe they're seeing you and they're wanting autographs or whatever when they go to a game, and they look to you for a piece of advice or some words of wisdom to get them to where you're at now. What do you want to impart upon them?
I'd say don't worry about what you see on social media. Like, you see a bunch of 15-year-olds throwing 94. It's not. Those guys are outliers. That's not normal. Like, and people really let that get to their head. I should be throwing that hard, but no, it's not. It's a lot harder than you think, and those kids are special. Mm-hmm.
That is fantastic. And the final one we ask everybody here on the show: what does the game of baseball mean to you, Cody?
Everything. It's been my life for the last 4 years. You know, I want to keep playing it for as long as I can.
Well, we hope to keep watching you play it as well, Cody. Really appreciate the time. Congrats on all the success to this point. Continued success at PBA and beyond. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
And finally, we turn our attention to the University of Calgary, who came back as the defending champions from 2023 to post a 13-17 mark. Not the way Cam Williams and company wanted to defend the title, but with a team full of veterans, they hope to get back to their winning ways in 2025. One of those vets is Ethan Webster, who joined us on last year's CCBC season preview Extravaganza. The BC native went 2-3 with a 2.78 ERA in 7 starts last season, and says he would love to iron out a few things this spring.
Ethan Webster, about a year ago, we sat in virtually the same spot, did this exact same thing. We'll get to the season in a second, but I want to start off with a little heartbreak. What went through your mind when you saw the Excavators at Foothill Stadium?
It was heartbreaking, honestly, just to see, the field that was my first university field, and it's been my only university field. I came in day one, and it was the coolest thing in the world to me to see, wow, look at this huge stadium, look at the history it has, and I get to play here. And, we never really saw it filled up to the extent that I dreamed, but to see it just in rubble, it was really tough to look at, and a lot of uncertainty that comes with it, and what's next for the program, and, where our next home's going to be. It stung, and it still does. But, we're all very resilient, and, I got faith that, despite the circumstances, we're still going to play, we're still going to, be the best we can and get through it.
I was going to talk about that aspect of things too. As a team, you guys are working out, getting ready for the season. I know there's that lingering question about where are we going to play, how is it all going to work with the schedule, all that kind of thing. But aside from that, what's the vibe been in the room as you look and go, okay, we know we're not playing at that stadium anymore?
Well, we're a bit more mature team this year. We got a lot of older guys, but we got some young guys coming in, and everyone's just excited to play. And I don't think it really matters to a lot of guys where that is, because with weather, we've got to deal with lots of rescheduling anyway, and moving to Glen Hansen, moving to playing in Edmonton, switching series with guys. So I don't know. I don't think it's affected a lot of guys at all. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, especially for spring trip upcoming here. I think guys are just excited to get on the field no matter where it is.
Let's get into that on a personal note. How excited are you to finally put on jerseys and take away the practice time and all that kind of stuff and actually get to some gameplay for the CCBC season?
Speaking of jerseys, we're getting new ones in this year. I'm so excited to put those on. But in terms of just playing, it's so different being inside and, throwing lives in cages, and it's a completely different beast to being outside, getting your spikes in the dirt and, dealing with the cold weather, but really getting to play and getting to compete again. I'm so unbelievably excited.
Talk about expectations, because last year when we sat in this spot, you were coming off a CCBC championship. You kind of put on the brave face and said, listen, we know we're going to be a bit of the favorite going into this year. Now that you're not, does your mindset change heading into this year? Or are you going into it going, we've got a great core, we know what we're capable of, we've got a year of experience under our belt, let's go?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I think we will be playing with a bit of a chip on our shoulder, knowing that we didn't show up how we wanted to, especially in the back half of the season. But I also think it's knowing that we do have that older core and we have been there before. And, I think we're ready to go, we're ready to compete, and, just take the chips as they fall, honestly. I don't think anyone's that concerned about how we're perceived. I think we're just going to go out there and we're going to play our game, and whatever happens, happens.
Did you learn anything last year that made you go, okay, we need to key on this heading into 2025?
On a personal note, absolutely. I learned that, sometimes I'm not the perfect teammate, that I'm not the teammate I want to be, and I'm not the pitcher I want to be. Sometimes you're going to have bad games, and sometimes you're going to have great games, and, my job is to just go out there and perform to the best I can, give us a chance. And sometimes it'll work out, and sometimes it doesn't. So I think the biggest thing for me was, removing myself from the outcome and being able to just be out there, go compete, go have fun, and what happens, happens. And once it's there, it's out of our control. We can only do what we can do. All the reps in practice, everything, it might translate, sometimes it doesn't. And that's all right, honestly. So I think we really learned that we got to be focused, we got to be sharp, but we got to have fun at the same time. And I think myself, I lost that a little bit last year, and I wasn't loving the game like I'm supposed to. But I'm really back in that spot, and I think a lot of guys are back in that spot. So I'm really excited. I think we'll be all right.
As a team, how much of it is going to be about that continual improvement? And you and I are talking off air about this. I felt for both you guys in PBA, because you had an early season snow out, if memory serves right, or the conditions weren't ideal. You end up getting a full weekend early on that was wiped out, and it kind of felt like neither team could really get any momentum going. How do you kind of learn from that and maybe exercise those demons a little bit in 2025 and go, even if we do get a weekend wiped out, we're going to continually improve week after week and make sure that we're at our best heading into May long?
I think it's just, being content with the work you did throughout the week and throughout the off season in the fall and the winter, and just always being ready to go. Like this winter, we had a lot of guys put in work in the weight room, with their hitting, with their swing, with their pitching mechanics, with their fielding, everything. Everyone was working so hard. We had a lot of guys just battling and competing in the weight room, and it was awesome to see. So I think now it's being content with all of that work and the work we've done the last couple weeks in the cages, and, knowing that we've put in the work that's necessary, and now it's up to us to show it.
As you look around the room and you see what this team is capable of, what's low-key exciting you? Is it the staff? Is it the hit, the bats? What is it that's got you going, this is a year that we're going to be ones to contend with?
There's a lot of things that excite me. I'm really excited about our older guys, our seniors, my whole group, the fifth years. I think our staff is fantastic this year. I think it's the best it's looked. I think we have lots of older guys that are going to go out and compete and that have improved and want to keep improving and want to keep proving that they belong. And I think we have a lot of young guys on the staff as well that want to prove that they do belong there and that they're really going to compete and get their names up there. I'm really excited about the bats. We got some new guys coming in. We've got some older guys that have really worked on honing their craft. And I think we're going to really come out swinging early.
On a personal note, you kind of alluded to some of the things that you learned from last year. Now that you're a fourth-year guy, have you found that you've evolved your mindset a little bit to become more of that leader, to be more of that guy that the younger crew can start to lean on, because you know that the clock is kind of ticking, so to speak?
Oh, absolutely. I am a completely different person than I was when I came here in my first year. I've always had that bit of a temper when I'm playing right, and I've always really wanted to do everything myself, and I've had to accept that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to do research on your own. It's okay to not be at your best mentally and physically, and I've really matured in that way. I went through a lot of mental battles last year, especially last summer when I was struggling and didn't really know how to get out of it. And it was taking that step of asking for help and what do I do and what do I change. And from there, that's just expanded into doing more research on my own, improving little things I've ignored, and really putting the work in and being a student of the game opposed to just a player. And I've spent this whole offseason really reinventing my game and, not only becoming a better person, but I believe a better pitcher. And I'm excited to show all my new stuff and what I've been working on, and I think it's going to go really well.
I don't want you to break the news to your opponent, so I won't make you tell me exactly what you've been working on pitching-wise and that kind of stuff. But on the mental side of things, what have you been working on that front to make sure that, hey, if you do have that bad outing, that you're able to brush it off and go, okay, let's get her the next time around?
I think it's just knowing that at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a game, and it's a game that we all play because we all love it, right? Like, I started playing baseball when I was 5, and I have loved the game ever since. And my biggest problem was when I have those battles is when there's not success, I wouldn't love it. And back in the day, we didn't really care about success. It was just about having fun. And I think the biggest thing for me to get back to having fun was knowing that when the game ends, I still have a great support system behind me. I have my family, I got my coaches, I got my friends. I have all these people that are there for me at baseball and outside of baseball. And it's something that no matter what happens on the field, I can go home and I can be content with the work I put in, even if the results didn't go my way. And, I can still smile that night or later that day and, talk to my mom, talk to my dad, talk to my brother, my coaches, and really just be able to relax some more. Loosen up, breathe, and enjoy the process.
Absolutely. Final question for you. When looking ahead to May Long weekend, I know there's a lot that can happen in the next few weeks here, but what is going to be pivotal in your mind to making sure that you are returning as CCBC champions?
We talked about this a little before we started running here. It really is most importantly about getting hot at the right time. And it's about everyone being able to contribute, right? Whether that's off the bench, whether that's out of the bullpen, whether that's you're playing every single inning at that championship. It's guys that are ready to go, that have seen everything they need to see throughout the season to be prepared to play their best, give their best effort, and contribute in any way possible. Even if that's honestly just base running, right? Stuff like that. Picking up your teammates off the field when you're a guy on the bench, doing charts, taking notes. I know it's basic, but cheering, right? Like getting your guys going and just staying positive no matter what. Like our biggest thing in that 23 run was that game against TRU. The first game was so back and forth and nobody got down. and everyone stayed up the whole time. We were positive, we kept our guys going, and we battled back, and we did that the whole tournament, right? Like, we got in a lot of close games, both of them with Vic at the end. So I think it's really important that we keep that loose but fun and competitive mindset, and I think that'll really help us get across the line.
Well, Ethan, always a pleasure getting a chance to catch up with you and talk a little ball, whether it be on the record or off, this time being on. Thanks so much for taking the time, and best of luck in this season.
Been a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again to Logan Wedgewood, Jake Roggensack, Cody Graf, and Ethan Webster for joining us this week, and best of luck to everyone with the CCBC season kicking off this weekend. We're aiming to provide even more coverage of the league again this year, including plans to be there for the CCBC World Series May-long weekend in Lethbridge, so stay tuned for much, much more. As always, a tip of the cap to our Platinum supporters, Under the Lights Sports and Entertainment, the Western Canadian Baseball League, and the Okotoks Dogs for their generosity in helping us tell the game stories in our province. For more on our tremendous teammates and to get involved as a sponsor, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support online, on social, and on air of Alberta Dugout Stories.